All right, everybody, how you doing? It's Johnny Walker Dread. You all know me, the Johnny Walker Dread Show. I have about, I think, 1,200 videos now, and about 400 of them are on Kyle Rittenhouse, and he's made the news lately over the last couple of days. But we're going to have a long talk. I'm not sure how long it's going to be about Kyle's latest foibles. I'm sure he doesn't look at it that way, but I do. And if everybody's not familiar with me, let me try that again. If not everybody is familiar with me, that still doesn't make sense, but I'm going to go through with it anyway. I own a channel that basically covers like police brutality. I've been hammering on Tiffany Henyard a lot lately, and Rashad Ritchie has been my punching bag for the last, 1 year, if you know who he is. So if you're interested in Kyle Rittenhouse and those other topics, sovereign citizens and stuff, go in, check out my videos, and subscribe to my channel. I have a couple of people who are joining here tonight. Kimberly, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about yourself and, well, say what you like.
All right, my name is Kimberly, better known as Conservative Goth Girl. My Twitter/X tag is conservative GG number three. I'm currently writing a book on the Rittenhouse trial. I had to put it on hold for a while because I have a 7-month-old son now. His name's Connor. He's sleeping. He might make an appearance. Who knows? Um, I'm currently working on Nate DeBruin's cross exam. So far, my laptop is still intact because a lunchbox is BS. But anyway, um, yeah, I've been following the Rittenhouse trial from day one because I've always loved court cases, but this one was different because it was self defense, not murder. And I'm glad the jury saw it that way too.
We need to join forces on your book. We might as well because when I'm writing my book, and the one thing I don't like to actually cover is the trial. I mean, the actual scripting of it. It's
Right.
something I avoid.
Hmm.
But if you're ever interested, you want to join forces on this thing, let me know. I have published before, so I know the publishing business at least fairly well. Just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, AXXA, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us as much as you want.
Okay. I'm Axel on X. Um, I'm military veteran. Um, I I was watching the live stream the night of Kenosha, and that was pretty crazy when the shooting started. Um, didn't didn't know all the details for that first night, but
Well, none of
I,
us did. Yeah. Except people like Alyssa Presley, she was a congresswoman at the time. She thought she did, and she's the one that went on there and said there's a white supremacist shooting up a protest. And I think that more than anyone, I think it was her that started the whole white supremacy thing with Kyle. But
Not
and maybe Kimberly, is that something you can weigh in on? Do you know? Have you followed that at all?
I remember tons of people calling him a white supremacist, and my first thought was, wait, he shot white people and he's protecting um, a business that belonged to people of color. Like, but he's a pretty terrible white supremacist.
Yeah, that's a pretty popular meme right now. Going back to you, can I just call you Axa? I mean, is that okay?
yeah, that sounds good.
Um, I kind of interrupted you. Do you want to add more to what you were saying?
Um, yeah, I didn't really know all the details, but I learned the details as quickly as I could. Usually, when I'm interested in something, I'll dig into it pretty deeply as quickly as I can. And right away, there was a lot of misinformation. Like I remember back in the day, they were saying that he was just spraying wildly into the crowd. Um, so yeah, I just started researching right away just to try to counter the misinformation, and then just along the way, of course, there's been a lot of anti-Kyles. So it's it's never ending. There's still a lot of misinformation that 3 years later is still being spread.
I mean, it
So
hasn't really gotten much better, to be honest. I mean, the same arguments are still being pushed around.
yeah, they still say his mom drove him across state lines with an automatic rifle, and that whole argument is just so they can paint a picture that he didn't belong there, but he had a First Amendment right to be there. First Amendment right to assembly. We can assemble anywhere we want to, and he had a constitutional civil right to be there. And they just, I keep bringing that up all the time on X, and nobody ever responds to that because they just don't want to confront that at all.
Yeah, it seems like the anti Kyles are the biggest pack of cowards that you can ever imagine. I mean, they either just bolt or they block you or mute you or something. I mean,
Yeah.
and I feel that, to be honest with you, when they first step in and they shoot their big mouth off, I think at least half of them realize, okay, I got this all wrong, and I am getting the hell out of here. I'm not even going to bother with this topic anymore, and they move on to something else, which is fine with me. That's about the best you can expect out of them. It's only rarely that somebody comes in and says, you know what, man, did I have it wrong? It looks like it was self defense after all. And I remember, and I know people are wanting to get onto Kyle's latest escapades, but we'll get there. But I remember a man named Paul Katz. Do you remember him, Kimberly?
Vaguely.
Yeah. Well, Paul Katz was a vicious anti Kyle when this whole thing started.
Yeah.
And I argued with him from day one. I mean, it was, well, I shouldn't say day one. I mean, as soon as I got into the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, he was one of the, I think, very first people I tangled with. And he was even to the point where it was like Kyle didn't have a license to be a security guard, and therefore he's guilty of murder, that kind of thing. And he then later started working for Binger, and we know that because Binger accidentally took a still photo of his laptop, and Paul Katz's email was in the window. So everybody knew at that point, wow, Paul Katz is involved in this, right? And
Makes
then all
sense.
of a sudden, I don't know when, it was before the trial, Paul Katz comes in and says, I got it, I had it wrong. After doing enough as investigation, because remember, Paul is doing investigating, right? He's not like most anti Kyles who wouldn't know how to research squat. He
Mhm.
was actually investigating, and he finally said, I had it all wrong. And then he became one of Kyle's biggest defenders. So it happens. I have never seen it go the other way, though. I've never seen a pro Kyle supporter like claim that, well, it wasn't self defense, it was murder. Now I know people are saying, what about David Hancock? David's not saying that. David thinks that he's a selfish little shit, and he's can't be trusted. He's got his complaints, but he's not saying it was murder either. So at any rate, by the way, we have somebody from Australia. I think this is one of your friends, isn't it, Kimberly?
Sorry, my eyes are old. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good deal. Well, hello to Australia. And let's see here. Who else we got lining up here? Is that Graham? Who does it say? I can't see too well.
Me neither. And I have glasses on.
Yeah. It's going to be a rough night because I can't see too well. But let's see here. Okay, the second person in, and then we have Paul Couts, now nonpartisan. I don't know. Maybe I haven't heard from Paul in almost a year, I think. So if you know something about Paul, I'd be kind of curious as to what he's up to. Mhm. Okay, so what's been going on lately? Well, so Kyle gets his job with the Texas gun rights. And let's face it, Texas gun rights is leaning on his celebrity status to sort of generate some interest for gun rights. I have no issue with that. Kyle is fairly, famous. Um, Although I went to the Waffle House here near my house and sat down, and they asked me, well, what about the cap? I had my red one on where it says Free Kyle on there. A lot of people think it's a MAGA cap, but it's not. It says Free Kyle. I said, it's Kyle Rittenhouse, Free Kyle, And they all looked at me like, what? And they didn't even know anything about it. So he's not as famous as a lot of us think he is. and this is Oklahoma. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it was. When I bought the caps, um, I figured, man, when I go in the grocery store, man, they're just going to be, either shaking my hands and slapping my back, or they're going to be chewing me out. And I think I can count the number of people who've even noticed the caps on one hand. Nobody knows anything about him, really. Okay, so here we have another comment. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, that's the common theme is that, yeah, it was self defense, but I'm going to show this again. Um,
But he
yeah,
went.
okay, so David has moved on to the thing that Kyle went looking for trouble that night. Okay, here's my take on David. And I know David's going to be watching this, okay? He may even be watching this tonight. And I've had talks with him on the phone about the whole thing. In fact, he was going to come on my show. Then his wife got involved, and it was just, I decided, no, I just don't want that kind of deal. But my view of David is that he's been burned, or he certainly feels that he's been burned by Kyle really badly. And I think it may be coloring some of his impressions of Kyle. The idea that Kyle went there looking for trouble that night, I see no evidence of it. I mean, you watch the video, and I understand there's like 15 minutes of video where Kyle's not on there, right? I mean, there's 15 minutes of time where Kyle is not on video. And of course, David's leaning on that and saying, well, during those 15 minutes, I just don't see it. I watch him walking around with his rifle. He's calling out medic. This is a kid who's hoping he can do some great things and then get noticed for it and get some, good publicity for his social media stuff. That's what he's about. Looking for trouble? Yeah, nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was just a good intention gone horribly wrong because, he didn't go there to start trouble. He went there to help. But unfortunately, he got caught in a bad situation and he had to defend himself.
Paul Katz is now nonpartisan Val. I'm gonna have to check him out. I might even have him on the show. That'd be great.
I think it was just 6 minutes before the first shooting when he was trying to return to the first car source property, and the police would not let him return.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
and
let him cross the line.
It,
and
um,
he's trying to get home.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, because once you cross the police barricade, there's nothing to do.
Mhm.
Um, the shop that he's guarding is under police control now, so
Yeah.
nothing's going to be happening there. Nothing. There would have been nothing else to do but go home at that point. Unfortunately, and it was very tragic. And police made two tragic mistakes there that night. One
Yeah.
was driving the protesters into Kyle's area, and the other one was denying him access to the mechanic shop. And if they had let him go by, nothing would have happened that night.
No, absolutely not.
well, at least not with Kyle. Rosenbaum was still in that situation. No telling what he would have ended up doing.
Let's see. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Rosenbaum was out looking for trouble. There's a guy who's looking for trouble, right? I mean, he
Yeah.
was actively seeking it as much as you could do.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
he was. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, no, go ahead.
Well, he was down there because his fiance or whatever the hell she was had a restraining order against him, so he couldn't stay with her. So that's why he wound up downtown in the first place. But yeah, like he wasn't, trying to find a place to stay. He was causing trouble. He had a chain in his hand. He started fires. He pushed a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, he says here, I just finished watching one of his interviews, and I assume you're talking about Paul Katz. Says he had a good heart, and that's why he went to put fires out. Okay. I'd like to know more about what Paul's up to. Let me see what this one is. The humanity behind killing someone as someone as young would have affected him mentally. How can it not? Um, I will say this about Kyle: it doesn't seem to have affected him much at all. I mean, like, and keep in mind, none of us knows what we would be like if we did that.
Right.
You may think that you know what how you're going to handle it, but
Mhm.
you don't.
Right.
Um,
Sorry,
and
cat.
and just to give you the comparison, Dominic Black, his best friend, really struggled with everything that went on.
Yeah. My heart broke.
Kyle doesn't seem to care.
No, I
But
mean, my heart broke for him. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, and he has a kid, and
two,
yeah. Oh, he has two.
he has two kids.
Oh.
Yeah, just had one not too long ago. He got married, so he's married now.
Oh.
Life is stabilized for him, but he had a rough time with it.
Yeah.
So everybody's different. And Kyle, I mean, you would never know he'd ever shot anybody the way that he acts about it. Now, I don't know what he's like behind the scenes. I don't know what he's like at night when the lights are out and he's trying to go to sleep. Maybe the ghosts come in on him. I mean, the walls close. I don't
Right.
know. But from his appearances,
Mhm.
he just seems to be totally unaffected by it.
Yeah. Well, it's because I do remember, like, I mean, granted, he was facing life in prison, but when he cried on the stand, that was heartbreaking. But I think now, like you said, you never know how people are behind closed doors, but maybe he's accepted what happened and he's trying to use his platform for good, which is fine, but like I mentioned before about his book, I was a little disappointed that he did put personal business out there that had nothing to do with that trial.
Yeah, and I have a few videos on his book. He actually came to me, called me up, wanting to
Mhm.
know if I would be willing to look at his book because he was getting some, you know, flack from his family. I
Mhm.
did. Direct messaged him saying, "Dude, do not publish this. This is not good at all." And he got pretty mad at me over it. He was really wanting affirmation. He was wanting me to come and say, "I don't understand what everybody's so upset about," but I knew what they were upset about. I told him, and that was sort of the beginning of the end between me and Kyle.
Mhm.
And now he's blocked me, so I can't even talk to him anymore. Right? But yeah, it was that book, in my opinion, written poorly. I offered to write a book for him early on. I would have done a far better job on it than that. But you know,
Yeah, there were so many misspelled words, so many errors. I mean, I teach English ELA
yeah,
to fourth and fifth grade, so it was a little
oh,
cringy.
it was yeah. Well, it was a newspaper writer. They're not necessarily the best off. They're certainly not the people you want to hire to write a biography.
Right.
Really, in this case, it was an autobiography.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, but yeah, by the way, we have a congratulations to Dominic. I invited him to come on tonight, but he has a family party to attend, and he
Aw.
couldn't make it. So, doggone it, love to have him on. But at any rate, Dominic, I think, is doing a lot better now, and hopefully things will move on. Keep in mind, he had a career as a pilot in mind. Plus, he wanted to go into the Air Force.
Mhm.
And these shootings took that out. I
Right.
mean, they've destroyed those career ambitions. So he's suffered a lot over this.
Oh, absolutely. I just hope that I'm glad that he's doing better. Like, he's married, he has a family. I'm so happy for him. I do hope he finds a career that, he loves.
Well, he is right now he's in the construction business and working on becoming a general contractor.
Oh, okay.
So that's good stuff. And so it looks like he's on the right path, is all I'm saying.
That's good.
Kyle, I think Kyle's the one I kind of worry about the more because once this, and as Kyle found out recently, and this is maybe my segue into what we're talking about, but as Kyle found out recently, fame can be fleeting and it can be really harsh. And if you don't know what you're doing, and Kyle doesn't, you can end up backpedaling and doing a lot of apologizing,
Yeah. Well,
and
I did.
you'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I did warn him on one post. I'm like, you need to apologize to your sisters, Dom, everybody, because even though your life changed for the better, and I'm happy for you, it can change right back like that.
Yeah. By the way, we have a comment here. It did affect him back then, but he's definitely a different person now. I can go along with that. At some point, um, you come to an acceptance. This is what happened. There's nothing I can do about it, and I'm not going to feel bad about it anymore. I can see that. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Do you think it's worth buying? No. Wait for Kim's
Wait for
book.
Kim's
Kim's book
book.
will be a lot more informative. You'll actually learn new things about Kyle reading her book and watching than reading Kyle's book. I mean, keep in mind, people are, let me give you an example of how bad that book is. And I have a number of shorts where I, pick it apart. But do you all remember the scene where Wendy, his mother, and him are in the holding room? And Kyle starts to cry, and she's crying,
Yeah,
and she's saying murder, and Kyle's asking her, like, well, I need you, Mom, I need you. Yeah, well, Kyle doesn't even mention that in the book.
I know. I saw the video
That was
too.
one of the things I wanted to read about. Like, wow, that must have been something else. I mean, what? And he doesn't even mention it. Why? Because he's mad at his mom. And, that's like, come on, man. So when you read the book, all of the things that you're interested in, he doesn't mention them. Instead, it's about, oh man, you should have been there that time that me and my friend, we went to this neighboring city without telling our parents. And you read for 2 pages and like, I don't care. I did that all the time when I was a kid. It's not news. It's not even the least bit interesting. But he spends a lot of time because in my opinion, he spends a lot of time trying to convince people that he's a real thug, right? I was
Mhm.
a real bad apple. But then when you're reading, like, dude, you didn't do anything that was bad. It's like,
You were being a typical teenager.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, he's trying to live up, this Marlon Brando biker thing going, but no, it didn't fly. I mean, so do I think the book is worth the money? Keep in mind, I don't know how much it's costing now, maybe $5, but for $5, $10, I'd buy it. You know, I mean, I might even buy it for 20, but you're going to be disappointed. And I don't blame Kyle for that. That's on the writer. And
Yeah.
the writer did a terrible job on this. Um, you can't turn on a recorder, say, hey, Kyle, I have a question. Write Kyle's answers down and put them in a book. That's not how you write a biography, but that's what the guy did.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it was terrible. Okay, so let's get on with anything you want. Either of you two want to mention before we get the show going here?
I just hope Kyle grows up. That's all I gotta say. Because money can't buy everything.
How about you, Axa?
No.
Okay, here we go. And I'll just go ahead and read this. This is the BBC, but overall, I think they pretty well told the story straight. I'll tell you what, maybe we should go to this one here instead. Yeah, let's do this one instead to start with. Here we go. Here's what Kyle, this is the sort of the beginning of the end. I shouldn't say the end. I mean, it's the beginning of all the turmoil. Here we go. And let me know, by the way, in the chat if you can't hear the audio.
Hi, I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, Outreach Director for Texas Gun Rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for President of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no takebacks.
Okay. He has no takebacks on that because when he says it, it's a done deal. What do you think?
I mean, that's his opinion. That's fine. But, you know, apparently he did have a take back because he now supports Trump again. But you gotta, if you're gonna support somebody, that's fine, but do your research first and make sure that's 110% who you that's your person 110% before you post it and share it with everybody.
Especially if your employer is a gun lobbying company. How about you, Axel? What did you think when you saw that?
Um, I guess I don't know. I might be in the minority, but I'm in the Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong camp. Um, I guess I guess I'm not really looking at it that he's a celebrity, more just that he's a, just a young man, 21, idealistic, and he is right that about Trump. I 100% support Trump, and I want everybody to vote for President Trump. But he he is correct. President Trump banned bump stocks. He did some other stuff that. So not only was he right, but I also think it's important for us to um, seek redress seek seek redress from our representatives and let them know how they should represent us and how they can improve their positions. So I believe that Kyle had an important message, and I hope that this whole situation turns out for the best, where there is actually some improvements with President Trump's position to be more aligned with the Constitution.
Okay, so you think that, and I'm not disagreeing at all, but you think that Kyle was kind of on the money with Trump, and by golly, if he feels that way, coming out and saying it, maybe that'll do some good. Is that kind of how you would?
Yeah, in Kyle's message, he said that he was in talks with Trump's team. So right there, I think that's a positive right there, that there's that dialogue is going on where Trump's team, hopefully President Trump himself is aware, we have these concerns, and I believe we all do have these concerns. They're real concerns. So, you know, I think it takes all kinds of people to win the battle. We can't all just go out and just vote for President Trump. We have to have some people that are trying to get him to represent us better too. And I think he fulfilled that function. So, I don't know, because he's a celebrity. There's a lot of drama, and I don't know about all that, but I'm actually, to tell you the truth, I'm a little bit disappointed because I I I think I saw people becoming really tribalistic today, which
You think? What
Yeah.
about you, Kimberly? What do you think of his commentary?
um I saw a lot of Trump supporters say, "Hey, it's because of Trump and MAGA why you're free right now. How can you turn your back on somebody that supported you?" Because I do remember the picture of him and President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, if I said that right.
I think that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can understand why they'd be upset, but at the same time, though, like, he does have that First Amendment right to say what he thinks, but kind of going back to the advice, do your research and then make your decision and then share it. Just make sure it's 110% what you want.
Here's an interesting comment here, and I'd like to hear what you guys have to say here about this. And his take back, in other words, backtracking, is just weakness from backlash and shows what kind of person he is at this stage of his life. Interesting. What do you think?
In a way, it kind of reminds me of like being in middle and high school. You just going with the crowd. you're you're taking back what you believe in because it's not popular.
Well,
That's
and this
fine.
is go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I got out of that.
Well, here's the thing that might have happened.
Mhm.
Kyle is working for this Texas gun rights, and he's communicating with them. He's probably powwowing with them, right? And
Right.
they're probably complaining about Trump. Like, can you believe it, Trump? That's inner stuff. You talk when you have an organization, company, or whatever. That's meant for internal discussion. You don't broadcast that outwards. I don't think Kyle understood that. So Kyle picks up on this anti-Trump things, and he thinks he can score good with with his employer by going out there and telling it like it is. And I don't think he realized that these guys probably did not want him to say that. And
Right.
there's a reason for it. And my latest shorts video talks about this. And maybe I'll play the video later. But if if you're a gun lobbying organization, 90% of your donors are MAGA, you
Mhm.
know, and to have your representative go out and say, I am not going to vote for Trump, that's a serious problem. And because you're going to get calls from your donors, hey, what's going on here? You
Mhm.
guys, I just gave you $10,000 and you're
Right.
going to turn your back on me like that? Well, let me give you an example from my own personal experience. Now, I was a graduate student in engineering. Okay, I was working on my last few years, and we had a, let's say, a person who was, there was a search for a new faculty member, and I thought I would score points with my advisor by writing a letter to the dean, or was it the dean? Yeah, it was the dean, about who I thought should be the new hire. And my advisor chewed me out. He said, they're going to think that I put you up to this. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean it that way. And that was the lesson I learned was as a graduate student, my voice was taken, especially when I was in the last couple of years of my PhD, my voice meant a lot more than when I was an undergrad. And as an undergrad, they would have said, just some stupid student, right? But
Right.
I didn't realize that at that stage of my life, I was at the point where I was going to be taken seriously. And I had never been taken seriously up until that time.
Right.
I was still in undergraduate mode and thinking I could shoot my mouth off however I wanted. I didn't realize that I was really representing my research team.
Mhm.
And by the way, I still drink about that damn night when I sent that email out. I still fret over it. It bothers me that and I had to go through almost like an orientation deal with other professors where they went through and explained why they wanted this other researcher. So yeah, it was a big deal, and I wasn't prepared for it. I think Kyle's in the same situation where he still thinks he's still in dumb kid mode. Nobody's going to care what I have to say. I can shoot my mouth off. Ha ha ha! Kyle said this, and he doesn't realize that he's at that stage of his life where what he says makes a difference.
Right.
And he didn't pick up on that.
Yeah. That's why I said earlier, I hope Kyle grows up.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're put into a position he is, where he is a spokesperson for a lobbying organization, you have
Right.
to grow up a lot faster in that position. And quite frankly, I blame the gun lobbying organization. And my opinion is, you guys brought in a 22-year-old kid to be a representative. You deserve this. I can't blame Kyle for it. You're the ones that put him into that position. You don't hire 22-year-olds for this job.
Right. Right.
But they did because they thought that this is a kid who will say what we want him to say. And they didn't, but 22-year-olds are loose cannons, right?
Mhm.
So you always have to worry about what they're going to say.
Yeah.
How about you, Axa?
Well, you both make great points. I don't know. I think it's good that this whole discussion, this whole dialogue has happened. Um,
Well, I mean, here's something that we can learn from it. If you are a youngster, adolescent, yeah, a little bit older than that, and you're in your early 20s, there is going to come a time in your life when your voice is going to matter,
Mhm.
unless you just don't do anything right with your life. And you have to be aware of that. Um, that your choice of words stings people, and be very wary of that, and especially email. That was my mistake, man.
Mhm.
Just stay away from email. I don't know how many people have been fired over it, but before you hit that send button, just hit the delete button.
Right.
And I don't know if this was the original message he sent out. I think it was on Twitter. Well, Twitter is just as bad. I can
Oh,
get away with it because nobody who knows who I am, but he can't. And so
right.
you just have to be very careful. It says here, by the way, didn't Biden call Kyle a white supremacist? I don't think he ever did. I think that his advertisement implied it very strongly.
Yeah, he used it in his campaign video in 2020.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and Kyle was a minor at the time. He was only 17, so that should have been a lawsuit right there. If I was his mother, I would have sued.
Yeah, by the way, as a note, I just talked to Wendy yesterday. Um, her and the girls are doing okay. They're all working. They all have now their place to live. They wanted to raise $3,000. We raised 7,000. So
That's
I,
awesome.
I told Winnie, I said, look, you keep doing this, I'm going to have to be borrowing money from you.
I'm glad things
Uh,
are turning around for them, though, because they seem like very nice people, and they've been through a lot.
yeah, they have. The girls are especially sweet.
Yeah, they seem like very sweet girls. I mean, I've seen the live stream with you talking to, excuse me, talking to them, and I do follow Mackenzie and I follow each other on Twitter/X. So
Does donating money constitute an agreement to vote for or endorse a candidate? Here's the agreement. You guys ever want to see any more of my money? You tell that little kid to shut up. That's the agreement. This isn't a law. This isn't a civil thing. You're not going to go to this is no contract here. This is a matter of I gave you a whole bunch of money, and now your representative is um, chewing out my person. You're not seeing any more money from me. That's what it comes down to. So no, I mean, if I donate money, that does not obligate that organization to follow my lead. But if you're ever going to see any more of my money, you'd better toe the line.
right,
And we're talking. Keep in mind, Texas gun rights almost exists entirely on donations. You don't get grants for that kind of work.
right.
So it's all going to be from big money donors, and they were lighting up that phone over that.
Oh yeah, the phone's probably melted.
um, God would just get out of the public arena. I think his 15 minutes are up. What do you think? What do you guys think? Are his 15 minutes up?
I think today proved that his 15 minutes are not up. Um, the reason people got upset is because a lot of people listened to him.
But do you think they're
Yeah,
going to be listening to him anymore over this?
yeah, I think. Well, yeah. If you watch his followers on X, they went down, but then they came back up afterwards. So I don't
Oh,
think this
really? Okay.
I don't think this really changed anything in the picture. But I think that Kyle is in the public arena for good. He, I mean, unless he purposely tries to get out of it, he's going to be a known voice, and today just proved that.
Kimberly?
Yeah, I mean, I yes and no, because it seems like whenever people seem to forget about him, he does something. So it's like, okay, Kyle's probably thinking, all right, I need more attention. I need this. I need that. And then he comes up with something like this, and now everyone's paying attention to him again. I mean, I'm sure he loves the attention. I mean, I mean, I get it. We're all human. We all like attention, but I think he's liking it a little too much, whether it's good or bad.
We're all trying to be famous, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to be famous, but
If he wises up, then he can spend this for more time. I don't know about that. I don't see any real positive coming out of this. I'm not saying it's necessarily that
no.
negative, but I'm not sure how you can spin it much. Kyle pissed off the right people. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
he always pisses liberals off. I mean, he just exists and liberals are mad.
yeah, but
But
he didn't piss off liberals here. In fact, liberals loved it, right?
Well,
I mean,
no, now they hate him even more now because he switched back again.
well, okay. I mean, that's true, but I'm talking about. I mean, let's face it. When he first came out and said, "I'm not voting for Trump," the left had a field day with it.
true.
Yeah, well, they didn't love him for it though. Yeah, they had a
Oh no,
field
not
day.
yeah. They're not going to be Kyle supporters under
Oh, no.
any circumstances, and Kyle needs to understand that. And Kyle didn't do this to be. I don't think Kyle did this to gain public support of anything. I think he thought that he would, like, well, maybe he did. Um, he might have felt that how Texas gun rights is feeling about Trump is widespread, and if I come out and say it, people are going to rally around me and say, "Yeah, Kyle's right. Trump needs to tighten." It didn't happen that way.
Right.
I think underlying it though, he's 21. He's idealistic. We all were idealistic when we were 21, and that's normal and that's healthy. And not only that, his life was saved by a gun. If he hadn't had that gun, he would be dead.
Right.
That's
So
100%.
something that the left will never acknowledge.
so he, he I mean he he said it himself. He's a one issue voter. This this is extremely important to him.
Yeah, and by the way, I think that as you get older, you become more interested in a wider range of topics. But gun rights are up there with me, and my one major topic or issue is just culture. I don't. I really despise Kamala Harris because of the culture that she espouses. And
Right.
that's when by culture is a wide ranging thing. It's not just gun rights. It's the whole, it wouldn't it be great if people could just walk naked and down the main street in front of kids and stuff. I mean, isn't it wonderful that they're having a guy who's half nude reading aloud to kindergartners? That's the culture thing that I despise. And I think that Kamala and Newsom and Biden and all them are big proponents of that. And I know people on the left are going to say they never espouse that. They do. They
Yeah.
do because they know it twists the knife in the conservatives. But to me, like economies come and go. They all talk about what about the economy? I don't care about the economy. The economies come and go. Culture stays.
Yeah.
That's what you're left with. And I just see this moral decay in the country is something that is going to take my interest more than anything else. But that's me.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I'm pro LGBTQ plus. I mean, if
Oh,
two
okay, we don't have to.
people,
No, I'm just joking.
I mean, if two people are in love, should they get married? Absolutely. But I do have an issue with um drag queens reading to kids because if you want to do drag, that's fine, but that's for adults. I mean, you know, when's stripper story hour? When's county inmate story hour? More diversity, more inclusion.
Well, at the risk of getting off topic here, but you can go and read to kids all the time. If you're dressing in drag, you're doing it for a reason.
Right.
And don't give me the innocent crap. I know the reason.
Yeah.
and they cannot fool me. This is just donkey show reading hour, and I have no use for it. This is, in my opinion, perversion. But okay, people can argue all they want, but you're not going to fool me. I'm old
Right.
enough to know better.
Yeah. I mean, kids can't consent to surgeries like that either.
Okay.
Like,
It
no.
says here he pissed off the hardline MAGA cultists, the Trump could do no wrong crowd. Essentially, TDS in reverse. Okay, go.
Hmm.
What do you
Well,
think, Ax?
I
Oh, I'm
don't think
sorry.
MAGA's I'm sorry.
No, no, no. Remember, there's no order here. Just jump in whenever you want.
Yeah, I don't think MAGA is necessarily a cult. I mean, there's just people that practically worship him, though, even though, I worship God, not man. I do love Trump, though, but yeah.
Well, I mean, if MAGA is a cultist, then what does that say about the Swifties? They're no
Right.
different, right? This is what they call idolatry. And I don't think
Yeah,
idolatry and cultism is the same thing.
right.
I think a cult, the leader of a cult, will have you do harmful things to yourself and you'll still do it, even though
Yeah,
you know it's harmful. But
Yeah,
I
right.
don't think that MAGA does that. I mean, so
I,
yeah, I'm not into that either.
I,
Go ahead.
I agree with that comment. I would probably change the word cultist to tribalist instead.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
think that that's
just
a better descriptor. I think cultist is almost religious.
Yeah,
yeah, it's just tribalism, and human beings are naturally tribalistic. We're a social animal. We're a competitive animal, and in order to be productive, we have to be aligned along the same goals. So it's natural for us to be. It's not only natural, but it's healthy and productive to be tribalistic. But to be overly tribalistic, you start having problems, and it's just natural. So you see that on both the right and the left. I want to believe that I see that mostly on the left, but today I saw it on the right, and like I said before, it's kind of disappointing.
Well, okay, so here's another take on it. This is my take on it. Your team loses. You want the head coach fired. You want this. You want these players running the stadium. We got to punish them. We got beat by our rival. Fire the players. Fire the coach. You're disappointed, and you tend to sort of act out a bit. And I have a feeling that a lot of this was just rage over being a little bit humbled, a little bit humiliated, embarrassed over it.
mm,
I think given another day or two, a lot of them might not have come out and said those things.
right.
Because I will say this, okay, the hatred you have for a betrayer ex- goes beyond anything. This is why civil wars are so vicious. It's because you're fighting people who you think are traitors to you. They're betrayers. And what you are willing to do to a traitor extends beyond what you'll do to a prisoner of war. And so a lot of people always say, well, you guys, they always come up with these like, what if there was a civil war in the United States? And they have no idea just about how bloody and vicious these things become.
Right.
And I think that they looked upon Kyle as a traitor to their cause, a Judas, and they got worked up over it. If they had just taken a little more time, but in a way, with social media, you can't take the time. You have to react now.
Right.
If you wait 24 hours, everybody said all the good stuff.
Yeah,
They've already got all
especially
the good memes out.
especially on X. X is really designed to highlight drama. It's all about who shouts the loudest. It's not really designed to have engaging, calm, rational discourse. It's who can get the most attention and who has the loudest voice on X. That's just the way the format of it is designed.
Yeah, Facebook was no better. I got rid of my Facebook a few years ago, but it should have been called Drama Book.
Okay, so let's see here now. I need to. If you have anything to say, say it because I'm going to be moving around here in the back page to get in the next thing loaded. So I really could use you guys to just fill the time. Well, actually, I think I'm good. Hang on a second. Um, I'm not really good at this. Uh, talk, Kimberly. Talk.
Well, the baby's still sleeping,
Well,
and
that's good.
yeah, he just smiled in his sleep. He's dreaming.
Okay, so we have there's Kyle. His chest is pumped out. He's next to a real. That's a real man, man. Look at him.
What I've seen this picture before. What is this picture from?
I think it was from a Michigan rally that Kyle
Hmm.
was the guest speaker at.
Like a gun
Yeah,
rights
it
rally?
was. Yeah, very much so. And I think it was like about 6 months ago. But I think this was in Michigan. Okay, so conservative campaigner Kyle Rittenhouse says he will not vote for Donald Trump because he thinks the ex-president is bad at protecting gun rights. We got to work on that vocabulary a little there, Kyle. Um, of course, shot dead two men during racial unrest. I know that Kimberly's just cringing right now. He was cleared of all charges the following year after arguing with self-defense. Well, okay, I'll give him that. That is actually correct. Senator Trump, he plans to write in former Libertarian presidential nominee Ron Paul, who's not running.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just trying to read through this to see. This was going to be more important, but then Kyle at the last moment says, never mind. I guess I'm a pro Trump person after all. So that kind of took the wind out of my sails. Oh, here's good. I support my decision and I have no takebacks because when Kyle Rittenhouse says that he is not supporting Trump, you can take that to the bank.
That didn't last long though.
Last on. And by the way, I know in the news they described, I think Kyle described it as I had a long talk with Trump's team, and man, they assured me that Trump is right on my side. I don't believe that for a moment. I think his employer chewed his ass out. What do you guys think?
I wouldn't doubt it.
I believe it. I think Trump's team would definitely have known about this, and it would have been in their interest to try to get on ahead of it and to reach out and try to have some influence over a better outcome. So it's believable to me.
I mean, it could have happened. I mean, I don't deny that, but how? I mean, I guess it comes first. What came first? Do you think that his employer, National, or was it Texas Gun Rights, said, "Hey, man, we can't have this crap," or do you think that the Trump team contacted him? What was the genesis for Kyle's change of attitude?
Hmm. If I had to take a guess, because like you said, social media is like very quick. That's why you have to respond now. I think people saw the post and then contacted the organization, and then the organization chewed him out.
Axel?
Uh, I don't I don't think so. Um, the statement from Texas Gun Rights saying that they support President Trump and nobody else was pretty calm and did not mention Kyle at all. So judging from that, I I don't think it doesn't seem like there was any kind of real rift there between Texas gun rights and Kyle. I, I, I think there wasn't necessarily anything that came before. It was probably everything was happening at the same time that Kyle was talking to Texas gun rights, and I believe that he was talking to the Trump team. He said he was, and I don't see why he would make that up. Um,
Well, um, I just put myself in the Texas gun rights organization. There's no chance in hell I would have gone along with this. I mean, I'm looking at a loss of donations staggering. I have to do something.
that's true, but they could have fired Kyle. That could have been the resolution.
Mhm.
But it's better if they don't. So it's better to. And Kyle is idealistic. He's not just going to change his mind because someone told him to. I don't believe that. Um,
Well, I
he
mean, if you tell them, hey, if you don't change your mind, we're going to fire you. I mean, if I'm 22, that's changing my mind, right? I mean, I get that he's idealistic, but do you really think that he would have allowed himself to be canned over it?
um, yeah, I think he would have. Yeah, I can definitely see him. He's not afraid to stand up for what he believes in. Everything that we know about him, we know he's not afraid to go out and do what he thinks is right. He went out and served his community when there was rioters burning down Kenosha, um, and he wasn't afraid to make this statement. Um, I think he would have stuck by his gun. I don't think he's a. I think we all know he's not the kind of person that backs down.
I, I, I don't know about you, but I have a feeling that he doesn't back down from certain groups. But here he is being chastised. I'm surmising he's being chastised by those he works for, that are people in his camp. That's a lot different. It's one thing to spurn the left when they're attacking you, but when you have people, your colleagues at your work, basically, you know, dragging you through the mud, that's a much different case. I don't. He would have to be one hell of a strong personality to take on that. It's called an ass chewing, and when you get your ass chewed by your boss, it really stings.
That's true.
I don't know. I mean, if
Well,
I was the Texas gun rights um, person, the way I would have handled it was to tell him, you know what, we're gonna fix this problem by having you come out and say, you know what, hey, I looked at this a little bit more and I talked to the Trump team and guess what? I guess that they're on board after all. So I'm going to change my mind. I'm very pro Trump, or we're going to fire your ass. And that's
see,
how I would have handled it. With a 22-year-old, I could have got him to do that, I think.
I just don't believe that because reading the statement that Kyle put out, it's it's there's no there's no it's a strong statement and there's no you know wavering in it. He 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 says what did he say? He said that it was based on uh
Well, I tell you what, we could actually play it. I mean, I think I have it up. Hang on. Oh,
the,
wait. Go
the
ahead.
I just didn't get a sense that there was any kind of conflict in his statement. No kind of emotion, no kind of like being forced to say that. It felt very like real
Well, I'll
like
play. I have it open here. Hang on, and we'll read it. My problem is I can't see the cursor through my sunglasses. Drives me crazy. All right, here we go. thought it was. Okay, I'm gonna have to quit the share. And
He doesn't say he's sorry. He says I was wrong.
okay,
Um,
let's read it. Over the past 12 hours, I've had a series of productive conversations with members of the Trump's team, and I am confident he will be the strong ally gun owners need to defend our Second Amendment rights. Um, that is in direct conflict with what he said earlier.
yeah.
My comments made last night were ill informed and unproductive. I'm 100% behind Donald Trump. 100% behind him? That's what was he saying yesterday? And encourage every gun owner to join me in helping send him back to the White House. Okay, go ahead, Axel. What do you think?
So he's well. He says he's talked with Trump team over 12 hours. So and he says it's a series of conversations, not just one conversation, but a
Okay,
number of conversations over the course of 12 hours. And he says he's confident. Um, he says that what he said was ill-informed and unproductive. So basically, he says he he wasn't he wasn't saying that based on everything that he should have known, um, and that now he's 100% on board. I don't feel like he's being forced to say this because it doesn't feel like he's not really wavering or trying to like apologize or there's no kind of like even like mitigate what he's saying at all. He says it very directly and simply. To me, it seems genuine.
Kimberly?
Um, well, to be fair, I mean, people change their minds all the time. um, I mean, he could have, you know, just went with the popular, opinion, but at the same time, no, he could have done his research and then changed his mind. Because that's what I did. I mean, I used to be the stereotypical liberal until I was 21, where I actually learned facts rather than feelings. So now I'm conservative. I
I'm going to do a
mean,
little shorts where I just clip that part out and just broadcast that. I used to be liberal. That'd be the end of the show.
but yeah, I mean, people change their minds, so.
Now, listen, Kimberly, if you want to be on my show anymore, you're going to back my art. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm still in that mode. I don't know about you, but this really looks to me, and I disagree with you, Axel. This looks to me like they told him, this is what you're going to say. Because we are going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars unless you do. And because if I am the Texas gun rights president, that's what I would do. This is exactly what I would do. I'm not losing hundreds of thousands of dollars over this. Not going to happen. So if and keep in mind, Kyle without Texas Gun Rights Association, he's got nothing because he's pissed off all MAGA. So what's he going to do? What job would he get?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I could just tell him that. I say, look, you're going to be fired, and no one's going to hire you. So you're going to do what I tell you to do because I'm your employer. You're obligated to me. I give you money, and in exchange for that, I want loyalty. Um, And before anybody says, "Oh, I can't believe that Johnny Walker tried to be like that," hell yeah, I'd be like that if I'm going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Damn straight. This is my employee. He's doing what I tell him to do.
Right. I
I
mean,
don't know.
when you're at work, that's your boss's time, you know? That's
Let's
not
see
your
what we got
time.
comments out there. I believe his employers chewed him out, like you said, Johnny. Yeah. Did you guys see my latest shorts video? I'll have to play it for you guys. Um, I have a nice meme that goes along with it. Let's see what else we got. Yes, the donors threatening to withhold serious cash certainly played a part. I wouldn't say certainly, but I think it's likely. I mean, he probably has a cushy job, right? I mean, how hard can this be? I don't think he makes much. A little bit of a flip flopper. Remember, he said, I am not going back on this. Well, you have to be careful of making those kind of claims. Okay, so let me see if I can find um, my latest. I'll have a little trouble coming up with this. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, what? Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. Um, Switching things over is just not my thing.
I
All
did it
right,
all the time when I was teaching during COVID.
all right. So here we go. This is my latest shorts video, and I'd appreciate it if everybody would go and watch it because it gets the old view count up. I just recently monetized.
Last 2 days have been a little bit of trouble for old Kyle Rittenhouse. Yesterday he came out and said, Trump? Oh, no way am I going to vote for him. And you could take that to the bank. And then today he comes out and says, you don't understand. When I said that I was not going to vote for Trump, what I was really saying was that I'm all in favor of Trump. That's right. He's back in the MAGA saddle. As I said before in my previous video, Texas gun rights, his employer was probably not very happy with his anti-Trump rhetoric, given that probably 90% of its donors are MAGA. Man, that could have really hurt. Now, I can't know what that Texas gun rights meeting was like, but it probably went something like this.
Remember to keep your sweet, sweet mouth shut.
So tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time, that's August.
Okay, that was my take on it. That's what that meeting was like. They probably took out their 45, pressed it in his mouth, and said, "You keep your mouth shut." What
Oh
do you guys
my.
think?
It gave me a good laugh.
I'm sure that Kyle's not laughing. He's probably watching the show tonight, but sorry, Kyle, but that's just the way it goes. Let me go ahead and turn off the share here. All right, but yeah, he does come across as wishy-washy here. He's 22.
Yeah,
I don't know.
21, but yeah,
Is he
he's
21?
a young man.
Let's see what we got here. A beggar at Kroger's. Oh, a bagger. I thought you meant beggar. A beggar is worse, but a bagger at Kroger's. Yeah, I'm not sure Kroger's wants to hire him, right? I don't know. Um, because I always said that Kyle should just open up his own gun shop. He could probably
Yeah,
get people to, you know, invest in it. I mean, that's probably not a bad investment,
no, not
assuming
at
that he
all.
can run it. I mean, you'd have to have a manager because he doesn't know enough to run.
He
I
is doing something like that already. He has some sort of partnership with the armor company.
oh yeah. He's got that, where he's basically sold his name. I can't remember
Yeah,
the name of the armor company, but the video was just cheesy as hell. I made fun of it. Let's see, what does that one say? Yeah, exactly.
Mm,
Left his
I
manager.
I believe it.
Well, keep in mind, Wendy talked about the experience she had. She works for an airlines. Okay, so she's at the ticket counter,
Mhm.
and one of the coworkers decided to tell everybody that her son was the murderer that she gave the weapon to, and she's having a hard time keeping employed because people find out who she is, and they say, "This is the woman who gave her son a rifle so he could shoot protesters." And
Yeah,
it happens all the time. She loses jobs over this.
that's horrible. I mean, and these people actually claim they watched the trial, and it's like, okay, if you watched the trial, then you would know that Dominic Black held his gun for him at his house, locked in a safe. That gun never left Wisconsin until that night.
You can tell them till you're blue in the face, and they will never understand it.
Yeah,
they don't care about facts at
no,
all.
They really don't. They really don't. And here's what I've told people: look, you're hanging out on the left side, okay? You're pro LGBTQ, you're pro Kamala Harris, you're all this. You can keep all those things and still think that Kyle was innocent.
right.
You don't have to think that Kyle was guilty. Your political worldview doesn't depend on it.
Yeah, like look at
So
the facts.
exactly.
No.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Baldwin, Alec Baldwin. All right, the charges were dropped against him.
Mhm.
I don't know all the particulars, but from what I've heard, the dropping of the charges was reasonable. I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
I don't have to have Alec Baldwin sent to prison to satisfy my political worldview. I can
right,
still be conservative. I can still believe in what I believe and still think that Alec Baldwin probably shouldn't have been convicted for that.
right. I mean, it was a tragedy, of course, but it was an accident. I mean, he was charged for what, manslaughter, right?
Yeah, manslaughter.
Yeah.
And I understand everybody says, well, it was his responsibility to check the gun. My response is, not checking the gun might have been something that I might have done if I wasn't a gun person.
Right.
He's not a gun person.
No.
Can't you, you have an armor who's a professional hand you a gun, you're going to think this thing is not armed. I don't think the average person would have checked to make sure.
Yeah. Well, a gun is always loaded, even when it's not. You always
Well,
treat
keep in
it like it
mind,
is.
but you're talking like a gun owner.
Right, right,
But
right,
people, they're not. Not everybody is a gun owner. Not everybody is a gun enthusiast, and
right.
so to require them to act like they are, I think is a bit much. I can't really blame Alec too much for what happened. Could he have been maybe convicted of something lesser? Maybe.
Yeah,
But manslaughter, I don't think he needs to go to prison for that. It was the other person's fault for what happened.
yeah.
That's the way I view it. But you see, I'm saying these things and I'm still a conservative.
Right.
I'm not MAGA, but I'm still a conservative. I don't have to give up everything I believe in, but they feel they do. They feel that they have to attack Kyle Rittenhouse because it's expected of him.
Right.
And I've also said that they didn't care if he was innocent or not. They didn't care.
Yeah.
It's the old, and I've said this many times on my shows, it's the evidence box. If they had an evidence box, a box that had the truth in it, When you
Hmm.
open it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the real truth. And it pointed to Kyle's innocence, they would have buried it.
Right.
They would not have taken it to the prosecutor.
Yeah. It's kind of like what I said earlier, the follow the crowd
Mhm.
type of thing.
We have here, he might have to work at HEB. I don't know what HEB is. I don't live in Texas, so I stay out of that liberal woke state. All you
I'm in New
Texans out
Jersey.
there.
Or as I call
Oh,
it, Blue Jersey.
you're in New Jersey?
I'm in Jersey. I'm from New
Oh, I'm sorry
Jersey.
to hear
I call
that.
it Blue Jersey though, because the deformed rodent turned it into a commie hellhole.
Yeah, Camden is a lovely place.
Mm,
Some of these I can't read because I just. Oh yeah, they claimed he shot black protesters. I don't see a lot of that, but I do see it come up once in a while.
yeah, same.
Let's see here. What else we got? Yeah, well, you can, but the truth is always going to be crazier.
Yes.
Everyone makes a mistake. Well, I don't know what that's in reference to, so I'll just move on.
He's
Okay.
allowed one.
Oh, why was he pointing his gun at her and fired? Well, he thinks it's unloaded. He thinks it's loaded with blanks. That's why. Um, I don't think he was aiming at her specifically, intentionally. I think he was just aiming the gun, and the gun happened to be pointed at her. And I think she's right behind the camera, isn't she? So maybe that's what it called for. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mm,
there. Yeah, there's two people behind the camera.
Right.
He shot both of them. The bullet passed through her and hit another person behind her.
No, I think he's an idiot, but not for that reason.
Not for what
right.
reason.
Of for the just because he happened to pull the trigger on a gun that was loaded, which he didn't know.
Right.
Yeah, it was called Rust.
Yeah, yeah. And whatever happened to the movie? Did they ever even bother to produce it? I wouldn't.
I I sure as hell wouldn't. After something like that happens.
It would be hard to. It would be hard to immerse yourself in the actual characters when you know the backstory of what happened,
Right.
right? Because Alec Baldwin it's going to be harder for him to come off as a cowboy when you realize the entire time he's on the screen, like, yeah, this is the dude who shot that girl. I don't know. I think it kind of ruined it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
you
think
watch
his
movies like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, right? And you see Clint Eastwood and Eli Wallach and I forget the name of the other person. But when you're watching them, you think these are cowboys. Yeah, yeah, okay. Deep down, you kind of know they're not. But when they're on the screen, they really come across as cowboys. I just don't think Alec Baldwin could pull that off after what happened.
I think his career's done, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, see here. Personally, I don't think he would threat. I think the Trump team contacted him. Okay, so I think he thinks the Trump team contacted him and said, "Hey, what's going on here?" Showing the error in his judgment, convinced him that Trump is pro Second Amendment. So they think that the Trump team saved the day by stepping in. What do you think?
Hmm.
Well, that's what I was saying before, but I think that wasn't the only thing that happened. Like I was saying before, I think everything happened at the same time. There definitely was conversation going on between Texas gun rights and Kyle, and but I also think there was conversation with the Trump team.
Behind the orange curtain. Okay, well, we're talking about Orange County for some reason, but okay, there's a conversation going on behind the scenes that I'm not aware of. Let's see here. Do I have anything else lined up? Let's see here. Okay, so what we could do, I'm just going to scan through the Twitter feed. Let's, all right. All right, Cat Turd. I think that is a pretty famous Twitter account, isn't it?
Yeah, he actually follows me. I was surprised.
He doesn't follow me. Oh, okay. Can't hold a grudge. It was the political poison to take your side. Trump and MAGA was there for you during your lowest point. Well, that's true.
Yeah, definitely true.
But I also want to say, and this has kind of pissed me off, that it wasn't just MAGA. I'm not MAGA, and I was fully in support of Kyle. Neil Kernan, who goes by V Radio, he's a Bernie supporter. He's progressive, and he was very much pro Kyle. I would suggest that half of my subscribers on my channel are coming from the sort of liberal side. They're not MAGA, but they supported Kyle. Ripley, Black 661, he's definitely not MAGA, but he was a Kyle supporter. He was. After the trial, Kyle kind of burned him, so he's not a big fan now. But during the trial, he probably researched and supported Kyle more than anybody on social media. And he's a guy who couldn't really afford to do that, but he did it anyway. And then Kyle just kind of spurned him after like Ripley wanted to contact him, maybe interview him or something, and Kyle just blew him off. Why? Because he didn't have 1 million subscribers. Well, he kind of did to Ripley what he did to me. So Kyle has blocked me, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know. Got some Senate race. Stay with MAGA. That's where you belong. And you'll continue to belong so long as you don't say completely insane shit like you did yesterday. Any comments?
That sounds a little cultish right there. You belong here.
Just immerse yourself. It's not so bad. Right? Like, what was that movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers? It's not so bad.
Oh my.
We ratioed the shit out of you, and now you're backpedaling. Whatever. Just stop putting the country and all of our lives at risk on a whim. Okay, that's going a little far. Because your anti-Trump buddy put you up to it. Who's the anti-Trump buddy?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I
he's
wonder.
he's talking about the guy from National Gun Rights.
Oh, really?
I think is Dudley or something like that.
I
Who
don't know who that is.
he has a history of being against Trump because President Trump is not strong enough on abortion, not strong enough on the Second Amendment, and it was actually um, if you look at who posted the video that Kyle did, that was the person. If you go to Kyle's page and you look at where the account that video actually comes from, it's that person that he's talking about.
Okay, well, I can't because Kyle's blocked me. Uh, Bro didn't even make it 12 hours. The vote for anyone else is a vote for a gun. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry. A vote for anyone else is a vote for gun grabbing Kamala. Well, that's the best argument you can make, right?
Yeah, true.
Kyle,
But
maybe you should go ahead.
that's not true though. That's not how voting works. A vote for anybody else is just like not voting at all.
Well, that's true.
He-
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
True.
and third parties and independent candidates do play an important role. They can't really win the election, but they can sway the election. They can swing the election. So it's incumbent upon both parties to listen to them. So it's actually a really powerful way for our voices to be heard by our representatives is through people who vote independently. Because if that independent vote sways one way or the other, then the way it sways is the side that wins. So if one side takes up an issue that's important to the independent voters, then they can win.
But I mean, okay, and I get that, okay, because I voted for, I forget his name, the independent, when Trump first ran, because I couldn't stand Trump, and I really still don't like him. Um, and I wasn't going to vote for, you know, Hillary. That's for damn sure. So I kind of stayed out of it, you know. And by the way, the fact that I didn't vote for Trump, even though he's running against Hillary, shows you that he really didn't like Trump too much. But at some point, you also have to realize that, I mean, if I vote for the third party candidate, I am really helping that person who would not win normally. I don't know. Is that the right way to put it?
Well, another thing is, Texas is a winner take all electoral votes. So Kyle's vote is not going to change the outcome no matter what, no
But
matter
what
who he
about
votes.
but what about publicly coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm not voting for Trump"? It's not just Texas, then, right?
Well, I
Because
guess
that's publicity.
that does get into his celebrity status. Um, but he didn't ask anybody else to vote that way. He just
Does
said
he
that's the
have
way.
to?
I don't know. I don't really think a lot of people are going to go out and vote for Ron Paul just because Kyle said he was going to.
But
Maybe.
let me ask you this: if you're in the Kamala Harris campaign, what do you think of this? I mean, do you think that this helps you in any tangible way?
No, not really, because what can they say? President Trump is not strong enough on the Second Amendment. Well, they're extremely weak on it, so they have no room to talk about it.
Okay, all right, I get that. Let's see what. Let's see here. People who. Oh, here in California. Sorry to hear that. Um, okay, I see that point. Okay, sorry to hear that you're in California. Um,
Another thing is just voting for win is a losing strategy. You really have to vote for who really represents your viewpoint. And if you're voting for somebody just because you think they're going to win, then you're really losing because your viewpoint is not being represented. And Kyle, I think really, at least yesterday, really believed in what he was saying. That was his viewpoint. So he has a right to vote for who he represents. And I understand he's a celebrity, so that changes the whole algebra too.
Here's a comment. Don't forget who absolutely lost their minds when you first commented. Fair weather types aren't trustworthy. So this is a criticism of people who are criticizing Kyle for voicing his opinions. And I mean, don't you think it's a little bit immature to come out and criticize Kyle the way that MAGA did?
Yeah, it wasn't everybody. It wasn't everybody, but there was a lot of people that I think went overboard.
Kimberly?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, we're supposed to be the party of open mindedness and free speech, but yet they practically crucified the kid.
Yeah. My first reaction was mostly hilarity. I thought this was funny. Here comes Kyle. Guess what? I am not going to vote for Trump. And then he just gets pelted, right? And I have to admit that was kind of funny because he's been living it up and seeing him. This is Schadenfreude, right? I mean, like, ha ha ha. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm thinking, like you're you have this MAGA thing going, and somebody comes out and says, I don't think I'm going to vote for your candidate, and you skewer that person by claiming they're a traitor. I don't know. That seems to me that comes off as a little juvenile.
Yeah, I think this was handled very poorly by everybody reacting to it. If everybody had just stayed quiet and just ignored the situation, then I think things would have been a lot better for us. Uh, there was a lot of division got created, and I mean, I guess you can blame Kyle, but other people are to blame too.
Here's a comment, and this kind of goes along with what you were saying. Don't see how it moves the needle. How many people would go, Kyle Rittenhouse isn't voting for Trump? Now I won't either. Um,
I
Go
I
ahead,
kind of
Kimberly.
doubt that
Like, explain what you mean by doubt that, because that could be a double negative there.
because, a lot of Trump supporters, they support him like 110%. They're not going to let some kid, swing them the other way. I mean, I don't care if anyone hates Trump or not. I still love him. He's got my vote.
So, but you would consider this to be bad publicity for the Trump campaign, though, right?
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't see how they can capitalize on that at all. They're not gonna put Kyle. They're not gonna invite Kyle to their rally and have him stand up in front of Kamala Harris and say, "I'm not voting for Trump." I just don't see any way they can take advantage of it.
So, even though this is bad PR, it's really not going to have any tangible effect.
Yeah, I don't. I th- I don't think it. I don't think it really could have any negative effect to President Trump. Not really. I, I I think it got everybody talking about the issues. I think in the long run it's good for President Trump because now I think everybody feels um, a little more confident, Like Kyle was saying, he's confident. I think I think people will pick up on that and be more confident that President Trump is. I think it helps President Trump. I I think people just really overreacted and got tribalistic.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when you're a member of a tribe, when the tribal member comes in wearing the headband of your opponent, people talk a little bit about that. And to them, they saw Kyle as like wearing the headband of Kamala Harris, even though obviously that's an exaggeration. But they felt that, well, this kid's not going to be working against us. I mean, he's going to go out on the trail and tell everybody, Donald Trump is not going to be voting for your gun rights, and that could be serious. I mean, Kyle's taken more seriously than I think he understands.
Yeah, I can see that worry. That it wouldn't just be this one statement, that it would go on and on.
Yeah, like he's now going to be on the campaign trail attacking Trump to try to get Trump to change his mind about the whole deal, or he's just burnt. Trump burned him because he thought that he was pro 2A. He's not. And now Kyle is just going to take his aim at Trump and go on the campaign trail and trash him.
Yeah, I could see people being worried about that. It didn't really seem that way to me though, because when he was saying Trump had bad advisors, he said unfortunately. So to me, that means he still supports Trump in some way, because he's saying it's unfortunate. But yeah, I think that is a good point you're making.
Okay, so I have some little notes I wrote down here because I'm actually starting to get a little tired, and we've been going on a while now. I will give you opportunities to say your last pieces, but I think I'm going to wind it down. My last piece to Kyle is this. Well, by the way, this is pretty much for MAGA and the Republican Party. An inability to read the room. You got to be able to read the room. And they seem to be incapable of that. And I think that the choice of J.D. Vance is a perfect example of that. The man has put his foot in his mouth numerous times because he just doesn't understand what the political climate is right now. But I think Kyle kind of put his foot in his mouth here because he didn't read the room. Um, the let's say the people that he associates with are going to be pro-Trump. Read the room. Saying negative things publicly about Donald Trump is not going to work in your favor. And I don't think he understood that. I think that he thought that people would rally around him. I was really pro Trump, but then I heard Kyle Rittenhouse telling me that he's really not in favor of gun rights. Man, I better think about this. I think the kid's right. Go, Kyle, go, Kyle. And I think that was a very naive way to go about it. So, gotta learn to read the room. Is even though not everybody that supports him is MAGA, they do make up a large percentage of his popular base. And I just don't think he's in a position to spurn them. So here is my suggestion to Kyle. And I actually wrote this thing down, and then he changed his tune and started backpedaling and became a Trump supporter. So this is probably not going to be like real pertinent as it used to be, but I'm going to go on anyway. Um, he's at 21 years old. Is that what you said, Kimberly? 21?
Yeah, he's 21.
He's 21. I think when he turns 26, and I've said this before, when he turns 26, it's at that point in his life when he'll look back and he'll realize what it was all about. And by that time, I have a feeling that he will be of little use for these gun right organizations anymore. Um, I think at that point he's going to be uneducated. I mean, he got his high school diploma, but let's face it, I think he had a lot of help with that. Okay, he's not an educated kid. Um, he's going to have some employability problems. Although I think that he's in a position maybe where he could, you know, find some niches in there. I'm sorry, what did you say, Kimberly?
I said some.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he lives in Texas, right?
Right.
Well, if he goes to work at a local restaurant, there's a chance that he could get the job. I mean, it kind of depends on how the owner feels. But he's a liability, and it's choked off some of his career. So there's going to be a time in his life when I think he's going to feel very alone. Remember, he's burned his family already. And okay, I should be careful. He and his family are not getting along anymore. I'm not going to go on and say whose fault that is, but he has disconnected from them. So his family's not going to be around unless he wants them to be. If he wants them to be, they'll be around. I mean, his family hasn't given up on him, although his sisters are pretty mad at him. But his mother will be there for him forever.
Yeah.
But there will be a time, I think, 5 years from now, when he's going to feel very alone. And if you're listening, Kyle, at that point, email me. I'll drive down to Texas. I'll sit down with you and I'll see if I can help guide you down the road to getting your life in order. I am a 60-year-old man, actually 58, but okay, 60. I certainly feel 60. And I've been through a lot. And I think I have the experience behind me and the sensibility to get you going towards success. And he doesn't have people around him that can do that for him right now.
Right.
Everybody is all about how can we get mileage out of this kid. And I will be more than happy to meet up with you. Let bygones be bygones. Don't care. It's in the past. Let's see what we can do to move, you know, in the future. And I have a feeling that the other people that he's hanging around are not going to be there for him. That's my piece. Kimberly, how about you? Final comments?
I'm kind of building on what you said. I mean, you know, there are things that money can't buy, and I highly doubt him and Dominic talk, or let alone are friends. I don't blame his sisters for being upset with him. And if anything, he should be kissing his mother's feet after everything she has done for him.
And what he put her through?
Yes, that too. Putting her personal business out there like that.
Well, and that, but just also like the heartache of having to go through the trials and all that. I mean, I
Right.
would, if I put my parents in that, I would feel terrible.
I would too.
But okay, go ahead.
But yeah, that's basically my piece. I mean, I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but I just hope he grows up.
Axel, how about you?
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. It's definitely sad to be divided from your family. Those are the people that will always love you the most more than anybody else. And I really, Kyle, if you're listening, I support you 100%, but you've got to make peace with your family. You absolutely have to, because they're the ones that are really going to have your back and support you um, emotionally, whatever it takes. They're the people that are always going to be on your side. And I understand there's disagreements and maybe anger, but you've you've got to you have to grow past that. You've got to reach out to your family. Family is the most important thing in life. And if you don't have family, you are going to be alone. You've got to reach out to your family.
Yes, I completely agree.
And he needs to avoid the idolaters, the people who only say good things to him. Those are the worst. I mean, if I have a blood enemy, a person who hates me, says nothing but bad things about me, I can trust him because I know I know not to trust him, right?
Right.
But the people who do nothing but, the glad handers, the yes men, like, oh, Kyle, you're wonderful. Oh, Kyle. Yes, people are criticizing you, but you just don't listen to them. I think that those are the ones you have to be the most careful about.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody likes a brown noser.
Mhm. So if you're going to listen to anybody in the future, listen to somebody who's been mad at you and who's
Yeah.
told you, because they're the ones that are going to give you the best advice. But yeah, I don't think that that's going to happen though. But it's not going to happen for another 5 years. I can almost guarantee you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's normal for a 21-year-old to be immature. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, there's nothing about Kyle that's unusual.
yeah.
And I will go back to when he was, going out and guarding property and stuff. And that is, people say, I can't believe a 17-year-old would do that. I don't know of any 17-year-old boy that wouldn't do that. I mean, like, how many 17-year-olds would you know that would say, oh, gee, fellas, I mean, I'd like to go and guard property, but that sounds dangerous and illegal. I don't think I should. I think, oh, and having a gun, oh my God, a scary gun. I mean, no 17-year-old is going to say that. They're going to want to go with you, they're going to want to carry the gun, they're going to want to participate because they want to be adults. And the whole notion somehow, and by the way, the thing that drives me the craziest is how those on the left, the anti Kyles, claim to be such goody two shoes when they were kids. Right? Oh, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
lately, it was like he drove without a driver's license. Oh, come on. I mean, like, really? I was drag racing when I was like 17. It was blatantly illegal. And there was a night that I still drink about that could have been tragic. And I was a dumb kid. And those people were dumb kids too at one time.
Yeah,
But hear me tell it. Go ahead.
I was definitely a dumb kid. And also Kyle wasn't really driving irresponsibly. He was driving to go to work
For
and
sure. Yeah.
Right.
and
Well, I've done the same thing. I got to go to work. I'm going to drive the freaking car. Of course I am. And you know what? The police might catch me. Well, I think I can get away with it.
and
Um,
and then he drove it to Dominic's house and parked it and then had Dominic drive him around to all the places they went. He
I
Right.
blew up the speed bumps at my high school because I had ladder bars that hung down real low. I had a Dodge Super B and had these low ladder bars, but they wouldn't get over the speed bumps. So I would just take a running head start at them, and there would be asphalt flying everywhere. But here's the thing: if I had later gotten involved in some ordeal where my conservative values came out, guess what the left would be saying? Oh, can you believe that in high school he was tearing up the speed bumps? Like, we were kids. That's what
Yeah.
we did. We don't see around corners. And yeah, you can't criticize Kyle. And quite frankly, I think that Kyle will handle himself pretty maturely for most of the night. Um, and the other thing I should mention, I thought this was supposed to be a say goodnight for the deal, but I'm going off on my deal. But and the other thing I would say is that, and I lost my train of thought.
Maybe it's time to
Fuck.
say goodnight then.
I think it's maybe time to say goodnight. Yeah, I was talking about him being like mature and all that, and yeah, I lost it. I guess I'm not really meant to be monetized.
can I change the
Uh,
subject a little bit?
sure, go ahead.
I heard that you're going to be doing a video about the BBC documentary.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought it up. Actually, Grambo sent me the video, and she's in it, of course. I watched it. I did a little excerpt with Dominic Black from it, a little shorts video, and the idea behind it was that me, Grambo, Nathan, and maybe a few others would watch it all together and do a commentary on it. But Grambo's had some personal issues with her family,
Uh,
illness in the family, and she just hasn't been able to do it. So she told me today to go ahead and do the thing without her. I really hate doing that. But at the same time, if I wait much longer, that documentary is going to be old news.
Right.
So I'm thinking maybe this weekend um, we'll get together. I think Nathan will do it if he's available. I'm hoping that Dominic can join on, and maybe Kyle's sisters. Who knows? I'll ask them. But we'll have a sit down and we'll watch it all together. Has either of you ever seen the documentary?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday.
What'd you think of it?
I thought that they left out a lot of relevant facts that was extremely biased, but I also thought it was extremely interesting because there was no narrator. It was all the people who were actually involved were telling their perspective, and the story was just knit together. And there was a lot of really interesting perspectives given. I don't want to spoil it, but
Yeah, I,
um,
I will
just
say that the final shot of Dominic, when he kind of just, and I don't want to spoil it either. So let me scale it back a little bit. The final shot of Dominic talking about Kyle was really telling. I thought it was the best thing he could have done. And but yeah, well, maybe this weekend I will put it on. We'll have a watch party. Myself, I thought it was pretty good.
good in what way? Entertaining or fair?
I thought it was pretty fair. I mean,
Uh,
it didn't go off and tell you all of the falsehoods.
yeah, they didn't really say anything false, but they left out a lot of the the facts that would give a fair context.
Yeah, and there could be a line by omission there because I know Grandma told me that they cut out a lot from the actual tapings, which is normal.
Nathan said the same thing today.
Yeah.
He's
Um,
he
but
said
what?
that
Go ahead.
he said they edited him heavily.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's expected. However, what you edit is important. I still came away with a feeling that the overall, I kind of felt that the overall product was rather supportive of Kyle and his friends. You didn't think that?
No, no.
Okay. Well,
I'm
well, that's why we'll have a watch party, right?
yeah.
Um, but I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to have to get a hold of the people to see because I hate to have a watch party commence without enough lead time for people to get prepared for it. Any final comments, Axa?
Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed it, and
Well, we're glad you came on. You provided some really good insights.
thank you.
And Connor, we all owe a gratitude to Connor. He's kept quiet.
Yeah, he's literally the best baby in the world. Like he sleeps all night now. He barely cries. I've been blessed, especially because of his father. I thought he was going to be the kid from hell.
Yeah, my kids were both pretty good. But I
Yeah.
remember walking my son around the pool table all night long. It was the only thing that calmed him down. Don't know why. Yeah.
Well, whatever works.
Thank you both for being on. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's comments, but I'm really kind of wore out now. I'm really tired.
Me too.
So,
It's almost 11 here.
yeah, I know it. Take care, everybody. Oh, how old is Connor? I think he's 7 months.
He'll be 8 months on Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, one last comment I was read here. Do we have a link to what Dominic said about Kyle? It's on my channel under the shorts. So if you go to the Johnny Walker Dread Show under shorts, you'll see the video for that. And If I remember, I can always link it into the description of this one, but I tend to forget. But that's where you can find it. Okay. Good night, everybody. I'll see you around.